My drive comes from wanting to be able to make my family comfortable. That's where it starts from. One thing I've learned is that there are different seasons of life, and in those different seasons of life, you'll have different focuses. I live not for the applause or the pleasure of other people, and I do my best not to fit into anyone else's box that they want to put me in, right? This idea of virality, it's really taken over our generation, man. Millennials, Gen Zs, we think that the world is just built on virality when it's really not.
Is home ownership, is it still the ultimate dream?
I knew you were going there. I feel like a broken record because every time people ask me questions like this, I always have the same answer.
Welcome back to another episode of the Men and Rose podcast. I'm your host, Oba Okusanya. Welcome back. If this is your, if you're returning, if you're joining us again, welcome back. If this is your first time, welcome to the pod. This is the Men and Rose podcast. We talk all things fulfillment, all things building a great life, building your dream life, and all those other things, right? But I'm excited today because I have, it's not very often that I have someone I could call a brother on the podcast. But today I actually have someone I could call a brother on the podcast. I have someone I've known for a good number of years now. Been through been in the trenches, been through a bunch of things together. But I'm excited to have with me Omar Genus.
Yes.
Welcome, Omar, to the Men and Rose podcast. This one is about to be lit, bro.
Yes. It's a pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on, man. I'm
Yeah.
excited for this.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm excited too. So, I didn't put this in the intro, but I'm just going to say it now. Omar is, of course, he's a dad, he's a husband, he's all those things, but he's also a mortgage agent. He's he's a civil servant as well. You know what I mean? It's such an interesting dynamic, right? So we'll get into all of that, right? But Omar, welcome once again. I'm excited to be talking to you today, man.
Appreciate it, man. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. I was thinking about probably the first couple of times the first time I met you actually. And I was thinking about how you've always struck me as somebody who's very focused, as someone who's very driven, very dedicated, committed to whatever it is they're doing. And you might not see yourself that way, but
I was about to say, man, hey, I'm glad that I put that impression out because some days it definitely doesn't feel that way.
Bro, I can tell you from the outside looking in, that's what we see. We see a lot of focus and drive. And I was going to ask you, where does that come from? Because I've started to realize that not everybody is, how do I put this lightly? Not everybody is wired in such a way where they're able to be focused on something that they're doing. And it's sad because you kind of see it play out where they do different things and they never put their whole effort towards one thing. You know what I mean? So where does that drive come from? Where does that focus come from?
Honestly, man, I could say that, number one, okay, let me start this way. My drive comes from wanting to be able to make my family comfortable,
Okay.
right? That's where it starts from. And then I was gonna say that comes from my dad. I watched my dad work tirelessly his entire life. He's literally working to this day. And I'm hoping that one day, could
Hey, amen, bro.
could bless Mom Dukes and Pop Dukes. But yeah, that drive definitely comes from an example that I had at home. Like my dad works tirelessly, works 2 jobs. He's almost 70 and he's still working. And so my thing is I look at myself, how can I come up after someone like that and not be focused in life, not work to achieve something, not work um, and not find excuses. You know what I mean? And so that's definitely where my drive comes from. I could say honestly, also my drive just comes from wanting to fulfill my purpose, man. I know that I'm here on this earth for a reason, and there's a lot I believe that has been invested in me, from God, and my aim and my goal. This is a covenant that I have with the Lord that I made a couple of years ago, and it sometimes is scary to think about it, but I said, Lord, anything that you put inside of me, let me die empty. Let me leave this earth empty. I don't want to leave with anything that I was supposed to have done or release or share, and so that's definitely where the drive comes from, and just wanting to empty myself before I leave this earth.
Bro, I think you put it beautifully, man. Emptying the idea of emptying yourself before you leave the earth is something that I resonate with. That resonates with me rather deeply because I'm always I'm always I'm always looking at it from the standpoint of um like there's so much that we have in us that and possibly we've only discovered like only a certain
That's
extent, you know what I
it.
mean?
That's it. That's it.
But what I actually don't now want you to talk about is the process of discovery, right? Because there's probably someone listening and watching, and they're saying, yes, I understand that there's so much I have on the inside of me and I don't want to die. I don't want to die empty and all these things, but how do I discover what's on the inside?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like I was also there. And there are still times where sometimes where I'm like, I know I'm focused on this thing, but I know there's more, and so 100%, that's a very valid question. I feel like discovery comes from a place of um what you're passionate about. One thing I've learned is that there are different seasons of life, and in those different seasons of life, you'll have different focuses,
Mm,
right? And um I've come to learn that it's okay. And you said this on your pod before, and I love that you said it because this is the essence of life, especially walking with the Lord, is that you're never just going to be one individual with
mm.
one set of passions, with one set of desires and one set of interests for the entirety of your life here on earth. It's just not going to happen unless you're stagnant and stale and you're not growing, right? It's impossible for you to have the same desires you had, 10 years ago. And it's a journey of just always exploring and sitting down, taking the time to say, what are my interests today? Why am I interested in it? And then giving it back to God and saying, what do you want me to do with this? Right.
Okay.
And I think that's where I found, I guess, my bread and butter in terms of finding out what it is that, I'm being asked of in every single season and using that as fuel to kind of drive my passions and my
Hmm.
desires, and really discovering um, who I am in that season as well. Because I mean, growing growing is a process of evolving and
Mm,
transforming throughout your
mm.
life, right? And so you kind of sometimes leave things that you once did and you once knew behind to pick up new things. And so
Yeah.
it's a constant journey of just basically picking up new things and really paying attention to the things that you're interested in, your desires, your passions. There's some times where I've done things and my desire falls. Like for example, I was super heavy into media, photography, videography. I would say 5 years ago. Now I still do it, but now it's more so just a skill that I use when I need it. Back
Mm,
then, it was something that I really was passionate about doing. I was passionate about creating content, creating media. Now it's more so just a skill that I have, right? And so um, that came because now I have more of a desire of business, of finance, and
mm.
mortgages per se, more specifically.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that's kind of what I can say about to the person that might feel like, how do I discover my purpose or what I'm supposed to be doing in this season? Definitely pay attention to your interests. Pay attention to the things you're drawn to. Sometimes even the people you're drawn to can give you
Wow.
hints and clues as well,
Wow.
to what like you're supposed to be doing or at least learning and growing toward.
So you have a business idea you're excited about. But hold on, here's the truth. About 90% of startups fail because they build something nobody wants. What if you could test your idea before you build it? What if you could test your idea before you waste months or thousands of dollars building it? I've put together a free guide called the Reality Check Guide that essentially has 10 validation methods you can use to test any business idea today. In it, you'll find validation methods used by Tesla, Dropbox, Airbnb, and other notable names around the world before they became household names. I've also included AI prompts that you can use to validate or test your ideas using ChatGPT or any other AI platforms. So get access to the free guide. The link is in the description. Download the guide and use it to test your ideas before you go waste money and time. All right, let's get back to the pod. Yeah, Omar, I like the fact that you said people because for me, passion for some of us, we're passionate about a lot of things, right? And you know what I mean? Like that could also be a distraction in and of
It
itself.
can be, it can be. Trust me, it
Right.
can be.
So for me, trying to like filter up like, okay, what exactly I'm supposed to be doing, I took it to the next level of looking at the people that I was drawn to.
Yes.
And for me, like, I don't know about you, I don't know what your experience has been. We're people of faith, we're Christians.
Yeah.
And automatically, if you sort of have the gift of gab, you can talk,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. The next sort of step is that people will think you're supposed to be a pastor of a church,
Right,
right?
right.
But uh, for me, it was a little bit challenging because it was incongruent with the people that I was drawn to. The people
Yeah.
that I was drawn to were people who were doing business in the world,
Right, right,
and I'm like, okay, yeah. On this hand, you're telling me all of this, but on this hand, this is, you know what I mean, this is the reality, and this is like I'm watching like business podcasts and listen to
right,
business podcasts,
right.
and that's the stuff that's like that
It's
keeps me up at
drawing you.
night. That's
Yeah,
drawing me, right?
yeah.
So how do you help people balance that? Because there's the opinions of people and what people think of you and think you
Mhm,
should become, and then
mhm.
there's what God has actually like laid out for you. You know what I mean?
Yes, 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 yes. That's so good, man. For me personally, that resonates with me too, man. I feel like we are in the same boat on this
Yeah,
one.
bro.
Um, Literally growing up in church, yeah, it's gonna be great, a great anointing on your life, and then it's
Mm.
like just hard pivot in my 20s to like business, and I'm just like, what? Like, you know, all I ever saw was ministry, but
mm.
God, as God would have it, now I'm doing business, and um, same thing. I've drawn such a desire for business and for business leaders, um, and I think the best way that I frame it is, um, like I live not for the applause or the pleasure of other people, and I do my best not to fit into anyone else's box that they want to put me in, right? And it's funny because you can see that trend happening even in like the body of Christ now. Like a lot of pastors are a lot more business oriented than, our fathers
Yeah, yeah.
generation, right? Where it was just, you just preach the gospel and that was it, right?
Mm.
And that did its due diligence in its time, but I feel like a lot has changed, right? Because a lot of pastors are now becoming business oriented because they realize I can't live off the church. I can't live off
Mm.
of tithes and offerings, right?
Mhm.
And it should be that way. You should be able to, put forth yourself, put your skills to work.
Yeah.
And so it's really just not allowing yourself to be trapped by the box that people put you in. What ministry should look like, even, right? Because one thing that I also believe is ministry doesn't have to be behind a pulpit in a church, right? Ministry is literally, you. Ministry is literally bringing the kingdom of God here on earth. So, however that looks like in what the vision that God gave you, then that's your ministry. That's what God gave you as your ministry, right? Not all of us are called to preach fire and brimstone and judgment.
Mm.
There's a place for that, right? As severe as this, there's a place for that, right?
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
all of us are called to, go out and evangelize and just be preaching in the streets, with microphones. There's a place for that. Some of us are called to the marketplace, to the workplace, right? And to business arenas where we
Yeah.
can actually put forth good works, right, and be a leader in in our sphere, not just as Christians, but as good business leaders, right? And
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's a testimony in and of itself, right? Even if you look at Scripture, that is congruent with the pattern of Scripture, right?
Mhm.
You
Exactly.
see, Solomon was the greatest businessman of his time and most
Yeah.
wealthiest man that ever lived on this earth. He claimed Jehovah to be his God, right? And he had kings and queens that were traveling to him just for his insight. That sounds like a master consultant to me.
It is a
You
master
you see
consultant.
what I'm saying? And so you have David, King
Mm.
David, right? Who
Yeah,
was literally, if you want to think of it in this way, he was a political man, right? He was a king,
yeah.
but his heart was geared and soft and surrendered to the Lord. And so he was a master strategist that never lost a battle,
Mm.
right? So you think of these things and you kind of think, okay, in my life, like, how does God want to use the gifts, the abilities, the talents, the knowledge, and the understanding that I have
Yeah,
in the world that I live in, right? And so I feel like when you frame it that way, it's kind of hard to put yourself in a box. And when you continue to traverse that journey, like people's opinions, they slowly just fade away because you
mhm,
realize that what happens is the people that put you in the box will become very irrelevant.
mm.
And there are a group of people that will start to see the gem inside of you. And those are the people that will start to cling to you and actually appreciate what you have to bring to the world.
Yeah. No, and Omar, I want you to talk about the fact that in that season of transition, in that season of pivoting, like you said,
Mm,
you won't be understood.
yeah,
Because everyone has seen you in a certain light for a number of years, and all of a
yes.
sudden you're reintroducing yourself to all of them, saying, "Hey, this is what I do now," and they're like, "Ah, no," you know what I mean? But then there's also, I always like to think about it from my perspective, in the sense of how have I seen people pivot into other things, and how have I judged them as well? You know what I mean? Because I feel like sometimes we're very guilty of the same thing that we're accusing other people of, right? So how do you sort of help, if someone's watching, listening to this, and they're trying to figure out, okay, I've done this for a number of years, and now I feel like a tug on my heart. I feel like some sort of indication that I'm supposed to go this direction. How do I do this? And yes, I don't care about opinions, but the opinions still kind of matter. You know what I
100%.
mean?
It matters, man. It affects you. Whether you want to admit it or not, the opinions always affect us.
It does affect. So, like, how do you encourage someone to go that road, that new road? You know what I mean?
Yes. So the first thing I would say is yes, like don't be one of those people that are gonna be like, I don't care about the opinions of people. Like it's gonna affect you. It's a hurdle that you have to get over
Hmm.
when you're transitioning. It's normal, right? Um, the one thing that helps me, sorry, through those transitions, is becoming competent.
Ooh, okay.
Because when you become competent in whatever field you're transitioning to, that gives you the confidence you need to not care about the
Mm,
opinion, right? Because it's very easy to care about people's opinions when you're not super confident in what you're doing, right? Or
mm,
how you're portraying yourself. The opinions are definitely going to affect you. But
yeah.
when you're competent in what you're doing and you're studying and you're starting to apply the knowledge that you're gaining, that you studied, and you're practicing, and you're realizing that, the content of my efforts, or the results of my efforts are matching the ones that I'm seeing of people that I've looked up to,
Yeah.
I think I might be onto something here, right? And so you realize that now, instead of searching for the opinions of people that you already know that have you in that box, now you're looking for the people that are looking for what you have to offer.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
your target audience completely changes. So it just becomes background noise. Like you get so confident in it, and you traverse so far into it, that after a while, the opinions of other people that you know, or that have put you in that box, it really just becomes background noise at that point.
Yeah. Whew,
Yeah.
background noise. That's
Yeah.
Omar. Now the thing is this. So you sort of pivoted, like we said. We've sort of established this sort of journey where you pivoted from, like, sort of hardcore ministry. Funny enough, people think it's ministry. It's actually not even ministry. That's priesthood.
Right.
Ministry is actually in the world, but
Right.
that's a conversation for another day, right? um, so you sort of pivoted, right? And now you're in the world of mortgages.
Yes.
Why mortgages, Omar? Like, because there's, like, why mortgages? Like, it could have been any other thing. You could have gone
Yeah.
to start selling cars. You could have started selling. Like, what was the attraction to mortgages for you?
So that's a good question, man. And it's funny because sometimes well, not sometimes, but when I first started, I'll say I asked myself a lot, like, am I sure about this? Like, am I sure about mortgages? Like, this is a hard pivot. This is something out of the blue. But I'll start from here. So in 2019, I actually had my life insurance license.
Okay.
Yeah, I had my life insurance license, and that was my first taste into the industry of finance, right? And from 2015, 16, when I first moved to Ottawa, I had developed a passion for finance out of the blue, to be honest with
Mm,
you. Um, I developed a passion for finance, and so 2019 got my life insurance license. For one reason or another, I didn't end up renewing the license,
mm,
but I was kicking myself because I could really see myself in that industry. And so I always told myself that I'm going to get back into the finance industry. Now, we had our firstborn, Miguel, and then Zariah, our secondborn, was about to be born. And we had just moved into our new place. This is all last year.
yeah.
And so it's April, no, it's March. When was it? Early last year, I'll say. I told Phoebe, I said, listen, I'm going to get my mortgage license. And she was like, yeah, cool. Because she knows that, like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what
Yeah.
I've been talking about. And so she was like, okay, cool. So now it was just up to me to find the time to do it. So um, right before she was born, did my exam in a week, did the exam on the Sunday right after I finished my course. passed it with flying colors, thank God. And then that was it. And so I jumped into it right before our second born because I had a passion to help people. That's what my I would say one of my core pillars of life is just my desire is really to serve and help people, right? And even if you check out my social media, a lot of my content is education. It's mostly just educating people on real estate, mortgages, home ownership. So the reason why I got into it was to help people. Now, um, there are definitely bigger reasons that I got into the mortgages, right? I feel like it's probably the easiest way to crack into the industry on a professional level. Um, and I think it gives you a really good understanding as well of the world of real estate because I feel like real estate is so glamorized online nowadays. Like people make it seem like it's
Real
sexy,
estate
it's
influencers.
just like anybody could just be a real estate investor. Like
Yeah.
but then you don't even know your numbers, right? You're talking
Mm,
about buying this house or doing this and you don't know your numbers, right? And so mortgages is literally the numbers game of real estate. And that's the foundation to anything you're doing in real estate. It always starts with numbers. Unless you got a whole pile of
hey,
money to just
hey,
throw a house cash,
yeah,
then that's not you're not thinking about a mortgage. But most people don't want to just dump their nest egg into a whole entire house, right?
yeah.
And so, yeah, so I feel like mortgages was a really um, foundational and I feel like a strategic decision in terms
Hmm.
of getting into real estate. Number one, again, the cheapest way, because to become a real estate agent, you're paying a lot of money to do the exam, and the course is now 2 years. It wasn't like it
Yeah.
was years ago. So I wanted something that was quick to get in. Um, and yeah, it gives me a good understanding again, like I said, of the game of real estate. Yeah.
Master the game.
Yeah.
Master the game.
Yeah.
I mean, Omar, I want us to do like within this podcast episode, I want us to do like a brief masterclass. And
Okay.
essentially what we're gonna do is like how to like mortgages 101, right? In
Okay.
the
Okay.
Canadian context, because we are in Canada,
Right. Right.
right? So mortgages 101. But before we start that off, I was gonna ask you, in your opinion, is home ownership, is it still the ultimate dream?
I knew you were going there.
You know what I mean? Because Omar, like we both own homes, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so we've seen both sides.
Right.
And I won't lie to you, there's days where I'm telling my wife, like, we could just sell everything and just rent a
Listen.
crib.
Listen. I work in the industry, and I'm telling you right now, I've had that conversation with my wife. We could just start over.
Hey man,
We could be pocketing this cash. I would dishing out every single month, mortgage, property taxes. Listen,
you know what I mean? So like in your opinion, is this still the ultimate dream, like that it has always been? Because like there's, people, the Americans have the American dream, and of course that
yeah,
includes a house and all these
yeah,
things. And Canadians, we have sort of, yeah, like it's the thing you're supposed to do, you know what I mean?
right.
But based off of the way the economy has been going, based off of the way the world is just going, in terms of just like the macroeconomy too, is
Hmm.
is buying a home still a smart decision today?
It's funny because I feel like I don't know. I feel like a broken record because every time people ask me questions like this, I
Yeah.
always have the same answer. It depends,
Mm,
and
okay.
it really depends. Like I'm not going to sit here and tell you that real estate is not a good strategy because if you know what you're doing and you enter uh, into the game, like knowing what you're doing and you have a solid strategy and you know that you have the discipline to work a strategy and the
Yeah.
patience to see that strategy come to fruition, it can definitely pay dividend, right? However, if you're someone that's just going to be out here throwing money at anything and everywhere just because it's real estate, yeah, you're going to flop hard and it's
Mm,
probably not the best thing for you to do.
yeah.
So home ownership, is it for everyone? I think it depends. Like there are some people who have the skill set and their focus is really like maybe trading stocks, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Someone that is well versed and has results in trading stocks might not see an immediate need to buy a house because the Canadian dream really came from, owning a home, buying a home, paying it off, right?
Hmm.
And then living in that home mortgage free and into your retirement, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, the world ain't the same world that we were living in 30
It's
years
not.
ago.
It's not,
And
bro.
these houses, the way it's looking like, it's going to take forever, right?
Hmm.
Pay it off. And so um, that situation changes a lot, right? And so, I mean, I think they were talking about it a lot last year, where they were saying that pension funds, right,
Mm.
were in trouble, right,
Yeah.
because a lot of the pension funds rely on real estate, and if real estate drops, the market drops, that's people's whole pension funds, right? So, real estate, is it bulletproof? Definitely not. It definitely fluctuates based on the market, so it might not be for everyone, right? I
Yeah.
would say I would say, if your goal is to just live a normal life and just, you don't really have a strategy for retirement other than just kind of, trusting your work pension, maybe putting a couple of dollars to the side every month. Maybe home ownership might benefit you because at least you'll have some steady growth in real estate.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you know that you have a solid skill or you have a business plan that you know you're going to pour everything you have into this business, that might not be the case then. Like you could it's not bad to not own a home, right? Renting is not bad if you have a plan, right? But if you have no plan, real estate's easy. If you're just gonna own a home, pay it off and live off, use that as your retirement fund, hey, by all means, but again, it really depends. It depends on the individual.
I like your answer, bro, because someone might be watching or listening and they're like, of course he's gonna say you should buy a home. He's a mortgage agent, right? He's a mortgage broker, right? But here
Now
you
give
are
me your
saying
business,
like
right?
give it like you know what I mean? But here you are saying no, 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 no. It actually depends on the context, on the personal situation, on the people involved.
Yes.
And I also like the fact that you brought that balanced approach to it because there is a lot of like content on the internet today that's creating FOMO for
Yes.
people who don't own
Yeah.
homes, right? It's like, yeah, like you can't build wealth if you don't have a house. And I'm like, that's not entirely true.
It's not true at all.
like, like, but unfortunately, these are the people that have the numbers and these are the people that have the reach. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that message keeps getting propagated everywhere,
Right.
such that younger people are starting to think, well, like if I'm just getting out of school
Hmm.
and like I'm gonna use the frame of the GTA, like Greater Toronto Area, for context, where the average price of a home is like I would say between $700, seven hundred
Yeah,
thousand
I was
dollars
gonna
to
say
up
700K.
to 800K
Yeah.
essentially, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're just graduating school, about to get your first job, and let's say you just need 5% of that, like how long is it gonna take you to save that up? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot. Where I'm just like, we have to tell people the truth. It's not the only way,
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
it's it's not. It's really not. It's really not. And I think the most important thing is developing a strategy. Like I said, if you're someone that's lazy and you're not really coming up with a plan, home ownership is the easiest way, I guess, for a lazy person to just
Mhm.
sit back, pay off your mortgage, and you have something to like depend on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I don't want to have to think about a strategy. I
Right.
don't have to think about, oh yeah, like which stocks to buy or I don't want to go run a business. Okay, I'm just gonna buy a house.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay.
That's right. That's right.
Bro. But I wanna digress a little before we go into this sort of mortgage masterclass. You mentioned two things when you were talking about how real estate can be a good strategy. You mentioned that it takes discipline and it takes patience.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, that's great advice that cuts across everything in
Yeah.
terms of whatever it is that you're applying yourself towards or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Can
Hmm.
you talk a little bit about that, about the discipline and the patience that it takes to see a dream become a reality or to see something that you're working on, to see the results at the end of it? Can you talk about the discipline and the patience? Because I think it's really valuable and we should talk about it a little bit.
Yes. 100%. No, I agree, and you're right. Like having discipline is really tough. It's really tough because it's being able to do the same thing you're doing without seeing results,
Mm,
right? And it feels like insanity because it's like I'm doing this thing, it should be working, right? Especially we live in the age of social media where people are going viral. You post one thing, it goes viral
mm,
tomorrow, and you think like that's the formula, right? People are social media strategists nowadays, and social media marketers because they have the idea of how to go viral. Like it's going viral is like the whole big thing now when really that's like probably 2% of the entire population of social media, right? It's the majority is not going viral. The majority of people that we see are slowly building, right? In whatever they're doing. There are people that are successful in business today that do not even have a social media following, but
bruh.
simply being disciplined and following a strategy so they can see their result, right? So I think the most important thing that I could speak on and say is having the right strategy is number one, right? So definitely studying, being competent, knowing how to apply your discipline. That's the number one thing that you can do for yourself and will help you. Because when you have a strategy that you're following that hopefully is proven already, hopefully you have some type of mentor or someone you
Mm.
look up to that you're following, right? You're not just blindly kind of just up and down the grass, you know? But when you know that you have a proven strategy, it's easy to work that strategy and have a vision in mind, right? But you see, the problem is that when we wake up every day and we do the same thing over and over, and we're not seeing the results that we want or we expect, now it becomes difficult, and the same discipline that we had disappears, right? And so I think it's important to just keep that vision in mind. What are my goals, right? What are my goals? What am I trying to achieve? And just continue to push yourself every single day. There'll be some days you don't feel like it, but again, that discipline will get you there. And so, um, yeah, I think. Sorry, what was the other thing that you said? Discipline
The
and
patience.
patience. Yes,
Yeah.
patience. And I think that's the other thing that's really important because, like I'm saying, like that virality, the whole this idea of virality, it's really taken over our generation, man. Millennials, Gen Zs, we think that the world is just built on virality when it's really not. And I think, having the patience to work your strategy, be disciplined, and stay focused every day on accomplishing your goal, like you'll inevitably get there. There's something that Alex Hormozy says that, and I love that guy because he doesn't give you fluff, man. He
No
literally
BS.
talks to you like he's not even interested in posting the video. He's just like, it actually cracks me up. But he gives good content because he's just
Yeah.
a realist, right? He's just like, listen, you're gonna suck for the
Yeah.
first like 3 years of your business, right?
Yeah.
But then he's like, you just have to keep going, and you're gonna get there. When you hear that from someone that's worth 9 figures, it's
Yeah.
like what else do I have to do, right? And so
Yeah.
you're able to like look at people that have gone where you're going and are maybe actively in the position that you're aiming for, and really just kind of stay patient, work on that strategy and stay patient. Man, this guy's talking about like 10-year plans.
Yeah.
That's odd. To our generation, that's odd to think in decades.
It's like I'm trying to get this bread right now.
You see what I'm saying? But like, I love listening to him, man, because his perspective really just it helps you to think in real life terms
Mm.
instead of this fluffy, lofty idea of like overnight success, right? He says, think in decades. He says the people that think in decades are the people that win long term.
Wow. Wow.
How
That's
can you beat that?
oof, that's
How can
solid,
you beat
man.
that?
You know, Omar, as you're saying this, I'm also like remembering there's a clip of Homozy that I saw where he was talking about how um if the sales like if they're acquiring a new team or a new company and they're doing sales training for those people, and he asked them like, oh, so how many calls do you guys do a day? And they're like, oh, we make about like 10 to 20 calls a day. And he's like, no wonder you guys are not making money. He's like, you know what I mean? He's like, because I there's a sheer volume of work that needs to be done for
Yes.
you to see results.
Yes.
Going back to what you're saying, the discipline and the patience it takes
Yeah.
to do that sheer volume of work, a lot
Yeah.
of people do not have.
Yeah.
And frankly, it's not something that like someone that can even like teach you. It's something that you have to decide for yourself that, you know what,
Yes.
I'm gonna do this thing until it
Yeah.
works. And when it works, I will keep doing it.
Yes. Yes. Let me
Even if it takes a couple of years.
let me tell you something. I can tell you, I'll be very transparent here. Earlier this year in the summer, um, I was hoping for mortgages to boom.
Mm,
I was hoping for it to boom. I've been posting content for, 6 months.
yeah.
I've been building my pipeline. I've been getting leads, and summer hit and it was just boom, quiet.
Mm,
It's just like, yo, what's going on? Like, I thought people would be coming in. Like I did my preliminary work building up to the
yeah.
summer.
Yeah.
And so, of course, this summer season, I'm being honest, man, it wasn't what I'd hoped it would have been.
Mm,
Um, but there was something in me that said, you just gotta keep going. And so I also employed a new strategy, right? So what I was doing I was focusing a lot of my energy on posting content
Mm.
because in my mind as a millennial, I'm thinking, people are
Y-
online. That's
Yeah,
the way to
yeah,
build your business nowadays.
yeah.
But I employed a new strategy from other business leaders that I follow online, and a lot of them are talking about getting on those phones and calling people.
Oof.
So one strategy that I employed now is I'm just following a bunch of realtors, right? I
Mm.
follow a bunch of realtors and I'm calling them one by one. That is
Wow.
some gruesome work.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that I've gotten probably within the past couple week, no, not week, couple weeks, I've gotten the same amount of leads that I had, I think, in like the last quarter of last year
Mm.
from
Bruh.
a few weeks of work.
Of just dedicated grind.
You see what I'm
Y-
saying?
Yeah.
So to what you're saying, like it's 100% true. Like the work that we think we've done, and we're like, yeah, I've done my work. Now I expect the results to come in. It's really not the case. Like there's always more work to be done, especially if you're
Mm.
an entrepreneur, you're working for yourself. You don't have a solid team yet behind you. Like
Yeah.
you got to really put in that work, and that it was a good reality check for me. I can say.
But Omar, I can also imagine like now you having to make those phone calls. I can also imagine the experience that's building and the level of confidence and the level of
Exactly.
like it's like I can talk to anybody,
Hundred
bro.
percent.
You know what I mean? It's
100%.
like
Yes, 100%. I can tell you when I started making calls, I think it was during my Primerica days back in
yeah,
2019. That's when I like started getting into like, cold calling, cold emailing, all that kind of stuff. Man, I was so shook. You just don't know what to say, right? Because you don't want to put them off. But then you learn that, listen, man, rejection is part of the game, you
yeah,
know? And over
yeah,
those years, I've invested, I've taken like, programs on sales and stuff like that and just
yeah,
develop my skills. And now I'm at a point, man, I pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, man, this is over. Hey, I have my spiel, I just,
yeah.
yeah, it definitely, like, you build your confidence and your competence, right? The
And your
more you do
competence.
something and like,
Yeah.
it just flows for you. It just flows
Mm,
for you.
yeah. All right, Omar. That's so like that. I would say that's the first half of the podcast. You know what I mean? It's kind of how I'm thinking about it. Now let's go into like mortgages 101 within the Canadian context because I like like we said I want to offer people value in the sense that they can walk away from these next 30 minutes and say, okay, I have a good idea of what a mortgage is. I have a good idea of what I need to do to prepare to get a mortgage. I have a good idea of the things I should probably be mindful of when I'm signing my next mortgage deal. You know, because some of us we just kind of went blindly into this. Like, if
Yeah,
I'm being
yeah,
honest with you, like you know
yeah.
what I mean. Like,
Me
like the first mortgage I ever got, I worked with a broker. She just sent me a bunch of documents. She's like, I need this, I need this. I just kept sending her stuff,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then she didn't even tell me, oh, like these are the couple of options of rates I found. She just said, "This is the rate I found. Here you go, take the rate." I was like, okay, sure, sign. You know what I mean? Later on, I like years later, I'd find out like they can actually shop for rates at different places
Yes,
and
yes,
that present you different offers. Anyways, but
yes.
let's get into mortgage 101, right?
All right.
Um, so for anyone who's watching this, like how would you even define or explain what a mortgage is essentially?
Mhm. So good question. Again, before I even got into mortgages, I wouldn't be able to answer this. I'd have been like, but it's just something that you do, right? But a mortgage essentially is a lien that a lender puts on your home,
Okay.
right? And so because we don't have millions of dollars just stashed in the bank account, it's not a common thing. We
Hmm.
all have to go to a lender for mortgages, right? Whether it's a bank or a monoline lending mortgage lending company. Um, and they front you that cash to buy that
Okay.
home, right? And so essentially you're paying back that lender with interest the money that they fronted you to purchase that home. So
Hmm.
that's what a mortgage is. It's a lien that the lender puts on your home, so that you have to now pay them back.
Hmm. So if we look at it that way, Omar, we actually don't own our houses.
Hey man, technically, in this North
Uh, uh,
American society, we're all just living
uh,
on debt, bro. That's what it is.
at least until it's paid off. You know what I mean?
Exactly right.
Right. So okay. So someone who's maybe new to mortgages, what are some of the things that you think they should be? Okay, let's start with this. If someone is planning to get a mortgage in the future, what are some of the things that they should be mindful of? Things that they should keep in mind in terms of okay, I need to probably get this sorted out or this in check? What are some of those things?
Yes, yes, perfect. So that's amazing. Um, the first thing I would say is get your debt in check.
Okay.
Debt is one of the main killers that kills people's purchasing power when it comes to buying a home. I've seen people that are earning, more than 100K of salary, right? But because they have a lot of debt, they can't qualify for the home that you'd expect that they qualify for.
Wow. Okay.
So debt is really a killer. If you can hold off on buying a car or anything that you're gonna put debt on your name, hold off, right? That's the major thing. Keep driving that little rust bucket until you're able
Mm,
to get yourself your feet in a home, right? Because that definitely cuts your purchasing power. I would also say, um, maybe if there's some debts that you are not able to get rid of, maybe paying down some debts
okay.
as well. That could be a good thing because debt it really eats into your purchasing power when you're looking to buy a home. The other thing that I could say when preparing to buy a home is uh, realistically, like, look what houses cost in the
Yeah.
market that you're looking to purchase in, right? Like, find out, number 1, if it's even a realistic thing. Like, sometimes it's just not realistic, right? Like, sometimes you for Toronto's a good example right now. Like, to buy a starter home in Toronto, in some places, I mean, to a condo for 500 grand,
Mhm.
600 grand, like, that's just not realistic. It doesn't make sense, right? For the home that you're getting. And so, does your income even qualify? Um, I would also say, partnering with people that, um, you know, have good solid income, good credit as well. That would be another good thing. You can also go into it strategically. These are some things that you can think about before even, making that first step to purchase a home. The most important thing is having a strategy, I would say, because as much as maybe your credit is really good, maybe you got super solid income, maybe you have a spouse or a friend or partner that you're willing to go into a purchase with. If there's no real strategy, for the short term, midterm, and long term, like, you're not thinking about covering all those bases, you can really get burnt and really get burnt. And I think what I'm seeing a lot right now, a lot of people that I come across, is that a lot of people purchased homes, in 2022, 2023, when houses were at their peak amounts, right?
Yep.
Way
Yeah.
overinflated, right?
Yeah.
And right now, people have a lot of debt, right? Interest rates are also at their peak as well, and so people are literally living off of credit. There was an article that came out a few months ago, and it was saying that the Canadian debt went from $1.70 per Canadian to $1.85.
Wow.
So that means that for every dollar Canadians made, a dollar 80, they owe $1.85 uh,
Oof.
in debt. And so that's really, really bad because it's almost double, right?
Mm,
That Canadians owe. And so it's really important to make sure that you have your things in check and you have realistic expectations for getting into the market.
yeah. So I think the other thing that the other question that possibly also comes up is in terms of like affordability. Like people always kind of want to know. I mean, everybody wants a nice house,
Right.
but I'm of the opinion that your first house does not have to be a nice house.
100. It
Can,
shouldn't
can,
be a nice house.
can you talk about that? Because like once again, I hate to bash the real estate influencers, but they make it seem like like you could just get that first mansion, and like, and he's like, fam, the guy's a student. What do you want him to do? But can you talk about that? Because I've had a guest on here, and he was talking about how the first real estate deal he ever did, his first house, he's like, it was not the nicest of houses, but it just happened to be at a great time when the market was just going up, and he was able to cash out from that to buy something that they really loved, and they
Right.
still had money left.
You
So can you
see?
talk about how
Yeah.
maybe that it's not, maybe the first deal is not always the nicest of house. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
100%. So I'm fortunate. Like, my first property was a nice place
Yeah.
because Ottawa was a good market. I got in at a really good time, so I was
Mm,
fortunate. But in a market like Toronto today,
Yeah.
You should not be looking for no new build purchase.
Mhm.
You should not be looking for your forever home for your first purchase. That is not realistic. I heard one investor say, I think he's from the States, but the principle still applies. He said, always look for the worst home on the block,
Wow.
because what you can do with that is when you buy a cheaper home, right? All the homes are, let's say, 500,000. There's one home on the block that's run down. The roof needs to be done. The grass is not cut. It hasn't been well maintained. You're able to maybe get that house for 385,
Mhm.
400,000. So you can now expect that buying that house, as long as you're able to bring it up to standard of the other houses on the block,
Yeah.
you're able to make some equity, right?
Mm.
You have to come in expecting to maybe with some elbow grease, do some work to it, right? But you know that you're getting a deal and you're basically buying a property with built-in equity.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just takes a little bit of elbow grease to uncover that equity in the property. And so 1000%, get a pre-existing home that might not be the best. It might not be in the best neighborhood, right? But once you're able to get your feet in the door of a property, right, that makes sense, right? That's, again, the ugliest house on the block,
Mhm.
and you're able to put some work into that home, you're able to now take advantage of the growth and equity that you'll gain from that property. That would be definitely the best way to do it, especially if you're in a challenging market like Toronto, or if you're in Vancouver, somewhere in
Mhm.
BC. Those the greater metro cities. 100%. That's the way to crack into the market.
Okay, bro. So if we're going with this sort of, it's not an illusion, but sort of scenario where it's a first time home buyer, they're trying to figure out what to do. Now we've talked about, yes, these are the things they sort of have to be mindful of, debt and all that stuff. We've also talked about the kind of house they should probably be trying to go for. Don't go buy your forever home the first time.
Right.
But can we now talk about how much do I need to actually buy the home? Because there's a lot of conflicting information. Some people say you need 5% of the purchase price. Some people say, like, oh no, it has to be about 10%. Like, there's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So what is required from people, first time home buyers in Canada, to buy their first home?
So great question. So across the board, everybody only needs 5%. Whether
Okay.
it's your first time, second time, fifth time, 10th time.
Oh,
If
okay.
you're planning to purchase a home to live in as your primary residence, you only need 5%.
Mm,
Now, it becomes a bit complex when your situation changes, right? So that 5% typically applies to, let's say, the A plus client, right? The triple A client. You got good credit, you got good income, your debt ratios fall within the limits that are government regulated, 5% all day.
mm,
Now, where it changes is where, let's say, for example, you're a business owner, right? So your income it fluctuates, right, from year to year. There's not a good solid 2-year average that we could get for you to present to the lender. We'd probably now need 10%, right? Because there are different programs that the default mortgage insurance companies offer, and we have to go based on their guidelines. So there's another program called Business for Self. It's called Alt A, I believe, with Sagen. They essentially offer uh, a 90% LTV, so you putting a
okay.
10% down payment on the property, but now you get to put stated income,
Oh, okay. Okay.
right? So you're able to now say, this is how much income I make as a business owner. It fluctuates, but this is how much I make, right? And they're going to ask you for documents, but it's not going to be as rigid of um, an underwriting process as the other program that's offered, right? And so um, there are definitely a lot of stipulations. So 10% for that program, 5% all across the board. If you're looking to buy a rental property, if you're looking to buy, maybe your credit is not the best, right? Maybe your income really isn't the best, and your debt ratios are way higher. You're definitely going to have to come up with at least 20%. With 20% down, you'd be surprised what you can get done to close a
Mm.
mortgage deal. It's really, when I first started learning about this stuff, I was actually really shocked. I was like, this can happen? Like, with a 20% down, you can borrow your whole down payment with 20%. You could um I've seen programs where with 20%, they'll go up to, 55 or 60% debt
Mm.
ratios. There's a lot of flexibility when it comes to 20%. And the reason why is because you don't have any mortgage insurance, so you're not kind of held strict to their rigid guidelines.
Hmm. Now, Omar, so yes, I have 5% can work, but how does someone practically now save this? Because I'm just being honest, right? Like if the house is, let's say the house is 500K, 5% of that is what,
That's 25.
25K,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So I now have to make a plan to save this 25K.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, that's not always easy. So if we're being honest, if we're being real here, you know what I mean? Like, what are some of the things that you encourage people to do to save for that first down payment?
Yeah. Great question, man. It's real. It's funny. I have a friend that anytime we talk about some news headlines in Canada and stuff, he says the same thing. He's always like, "Yo, Canada's cooked, man," because the economy is really tough for everyone out here. But one thing that I always tell people is, I'm not the proponent of person who's gonna tell you to cut out your coffee every day, right? Like that's not realistic. You still have to have a life, right? But
Mm,
I will say though that if this is something that you actually want to accomplish, we can mope and we can cry and we can whine all day and never achieve our goal, or we could find something to do, right? So
yeah.
and so I always say, if you're able to find maybe a second job, if you're able to partner with someone, right,
Mm,
on the deal, that's also another option, right? A lot of articles talk about the fact that boomer parents are partnering with their kids to buy their properties because
yeah,
that's a good way to get the down payment, right?
that's true.
And so those are definitely some ways that are quite realistic, right? And you can be surprised what you can accomplish if you put two heads or three heads together. Everyone's able to come up with maybe 10, 15 grand. You're able to purchase a home, right? And that can even be a strategy that can be employed, right? There's a couple that I'm talking to right now. They both have really good income, good credit,
Uh-huh.
and they're looking at the whole house hacking strategy, right? And
Okay.
so that's where you buy a property with 5% down only, but you're able to get into a 4 unit property. So you buy the whole property, live in one unit, and you rent out the other three.
Mm,
So
okay.
the idea is that hopefully, like, within our economy and rent and mortgage, it's a bit tough with rates as high as they are. But if the numbers make sense, you can actually get those three tenants to like pay your mortgage,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? And so there are things that you can do to really kind of crack into the market by employing really savvy strategies. Saving, I mean, you could try cutting the Spotify, the Netflix. I mean, hey, but it might take you a long while. So I think it's better and more effective and to find more innovative ways, right? I think partnering is a really good thing and really effective strategy to do.
All right, I'm going to ask you this next question because I feel like somebody somewhere is probably thinking about this. Should I buy a house with a friend?
It's a good question. It's a good question. It can definitely get dicey. You can get techy.
Hmm.
Can get
Yeah.
techy. But I think nothing trumps paper, right?
Okay.
Nothing trumps paper. And in fact, most lenders, if they ask and if they come to find that, your friends, whatever, and, what's the relationship between, you two going into the property, some lenders might ask you to go and get independent legal advice and draft a letter signed with a witness to say, I understand what I'm getting myself into.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think it's an amazing thing. I think if there's people that have, and I mean, if this is a friend that you are willing to purchase a home with, I'm hoping that you would know them well enough that, you know, you could do something like this with them and you have
Yeah.
that longevity and you both are like-minded to make this work.
Yeah.
But again, in Canada, nothing trumps paper. Once you got that piece of paper to say, listen, this is what we said, this is what we're gonna do, this is what we agreed upon, the terms, the conditions, nothing can trump that. So always put things on paper, even if you're friends. Get that paper signed. Go see a lawyer, get that paper signed. Because you
Yeah.
don't wanna mess around with the biggest numbers you've seen in your life, man.
Because buying a house is such a huge deal. It's
It's
it's the
huge.
it's, it's the biggest purchase most people will ever make.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's not something you want to get wrong. It's not something
Yeah.
you wanna miss the bar on. You know.
Not the thing. Not the thing to mess up on.
And I've heard horror stories about people who bought with friends, and I've also heard like success stories. You know what I mean?
Right,
So
right.
I was just wondering from a mortgage broker's perspective, like, would you be like, probably don't do that. Or hey, you can do it if it works for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I, as a mortgage broker, I'm always going to want people to win in real estate, right? So I'll
Yeah.
tell you how you can do things to make it work. I'll
Okay.
never discourage you and tell you not to, unless I blatantly see, like, yeah, this person's after you, like, you better watch your back kind of thing. But I'm always going to tell people, listen, this is, this is the scenario you're presenting me. This is the idea you're thinking of. This is how you can make it win. This is how you both could win. And now it's up to you to basically, take that upon yourselves, and I'll do my part in making sure that you're set up on the financing side of things.
Yeah, bro. And I think people also have to be honest with themselves in terms of if these are all the hurdles I have to cross and overcome, do I really want to do this?
That's another thing.
You know what I
Uh,
mean? Like, because maybe it's not for me, but
Right,
for someone else, like they might just be like, "Yes, I want to do this
right,
because this is for me." You
right,
know.
right.
But Omar, I was gonna ask you, what is one mistake that you see people make in the mortgage process continuously, or do you see people make when buying their first home? What are some like what is the number one mistake from your perspective and in all the deals you've done that you've seen that people continue to make?
I would say the number one thing is, I think a lot of people focus on interest rate a lot.
Okay.
I think a lot of
Wow.
people focus on interest rate a lot. And don't get me wrong, interest rate is definitely important. It can make or break a deal, right? It
Mhm.
determines how much your mortgage payment is every month or biweekly or however you pay. Um, but focusing solely on the interest rate and not on the terms and conditions of your mortgage contract can be dangerous.
Wow.
And I'm seeing a lot of that right now
Okay.
because a lot of people signed up for fixed mortgages but didn't understand the ramifications.
Hmm.
For you to break a fixed mortgage, it can cost you, what I'm seeing right now, minimum like 10 grand, around that
Yeah.
mark,
Yeah.
right? Depending on your interest rate, depending on the
Mhm.
time left in your term of your mortgage. For some people, it can be even more, $20,000, $30,000.
Hmm.
So you really have to have a plan of longevity, right? Some people, they just buy the house. Okay, this is my rate, my lowest rate. Yeah, cool. Boom, boom, boom. Right now, fixed rates are the lowest,
Hmm.
but are they the best option, right? And there's a reason why they're the best option. You have to think about it. The real estate is a business. Lenders are in the business of making themselves money off of
That's it.
you.
That's it.
So if they're offering you a low rate for a
Mm.
fixed term, there's a reason for that,
Yeah.
because they know that you're going to be locked into this thing for at least 5 years, right? And so it's really important. And the thing is that life changes, right? You buy your first home, life is good, and then all of a sudden, someone gets sick, God forbid, but like that's a possibility, right? Your income drops. Um, Anything can happen. You need to refinance your mortgage, and you find out it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to break that mortgage to refinance it,
Yeah.
right? Or you want to sell your property because life changed, and you're going to move. You had an opportunity to have a job somewhere else within those 5 years, but now you're stuck, right? And so now you're stuck in a mortgage that doesn't work for you. You're trying to rent another place you're trying to rent out your current place, sorry, live in another place. Your rent is not covering your mortgage.
Hmm.
It's messy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
always tell people, don't allow yourself to be mesmerized by the interest rate, but think about your life scenario holistically. Where do I see myself in 5 years? Within the next 5 years, do I see myself potentially breaking the mortgage? Am I actively looking to grow in my career? And is the opportunity, if I have a job opportunity in 4 years or 3 years from now, like, am I realistically going to move to go take that opportunity? These are some of the things that you got to think about, right?
Yeah.
Are we planning to have a baby if we're married, right? Are we going to want to upsize maybe, or maybe take some cash out of the house to help with some expenses or something like that? These are some things to think about, right? So yes, variable rates is a little bit more dicey, um, but it offers a lot more flexibility. So interest rate, definitely not the first thing. If you're a first time buyer, I always tell people, look at your entire life and map out as best as possible the next 5 years, and think about the mortgage terms that you agree to and you sign for, because it can get very expensive down the road.
Bro, I think that's phenomenal advice. Read the fine print.
Read
Like
that
read
fine print.
read the terms, read the fine print, read
Yes.
like and
Well, to be honest with you, your broker, if they're a good one, should be going through those terms with you.
hey, okay,
They
there we go.
should be. They should be explaining it,
Yeah,
on that mortgage commitment. They'll give the terms and conditions, and your a good broker will go through those with you line by line.
yeah, yeah, bro. I like homeownership is something that for me personally, like God has used to sort of help us significantly in terms of finances, especially
Yes,
that first home. You
yes,
know what I
yes.
mean? So I'm never quick to like deter people away from it, but at the
Right,
same time, I don't want to sell people a lie of oh, it's all just a bed of roses. You know what I
right,
mean? So
right.
I'm happy that there's people like you out there who are able to tell people the real.
Yes, yes,
This could this could help you significantly, but if you're not careful,
yeah. It could
it
end
could also
bad.
impact you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So Omar, this has been a fantastic conversation, and
Definitely.
I'm really excited because you bring a certain uniqueness and I guess fresh perspective to all of this. But also there's the theme that cuts across everything that you've done and you're doing is that you want to serve people. And
Yeah,
that's really exciting to me. And
yeah.
I want to just commend you for that because I can even see that even in the mortgage space, you're like, this is not just about money for me, guys.
Right,
Like,
right.
I want to make sure that you get the best deal possible. You
Yes,
don't get screwed over,
right.
and well, anyways, but we all know there's crooks out there, but we'll leave that for another day. So, Omar, typically the way I like to end these conversations, I like to ask my guests sort of like a final question that will get them thinking. Now, you're a dad of two. Shout out to Migs and Azariah.
Yes, yes.
Shout out to your wonderful, lovely wife Phoebe, who's also like someone I've known for like this is crazy, man. Now that I think
Yeah.
about it, this is
I
crazy.
know. I know. It's wild.
So how would you prepare your children for home ownership? Knowing
Mm,
all that you know,
yeah.
knowing all that like you have the industry knowledge now, you have like the insights. What are some of the things that you will do to prepare your children for home ownership? Because I hope that by you sharing this with somebody, there's someone listening or watching that's like, oh, that's probably a good idea. I should probably do that. So what
Right.
what are some of the things that you are doing or you plan to do to help them with their own home ownership?
This is a great question. This is a really great question. To be honest with you, I've never thought in depth about it, but just based off what I know, I could definitely say that having a lump sum of cash for them, right, for a down payment is definitely something I'm going to be doing with
Yeah.
Phoebe. Also, making sure that they have really good credit.
Okay.
Credit is something you can actually start building for your children before they even turn 18 and get their own credit card. There's something that you can do called, I think it's authorized user. You add your child as an authorized user on your own personal credit card. Now, this is, of course, for people who are super disciplined with their cards and are not going to mess around. Um, but this is something that you can maybe even get a specific card and just add them as an authorized user on this specific card. Maybe you have a limit of like $1,000 and you use that card for gas, for groceries, whatever, and you put the cash on it immediately. That's going to make sure that with this specific card that's being used and paid off on time every single month, that even by the time they're ready to apply for credit, they'll be like, what, 700 plus,
Yeah.
right? And so that's definitely something that I plan to do for my children. Um, I think the most important thing as well, though, is teaching them at least an iota of the game of real estate, right? Because it's one thing to leave them the asset, but, it's an asset, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of implications that come with an asset, particularly with real estate. Like, there are so many implications, there's so many, um, regulations that if you're not careful in what you do and how you manage it, you can lose it very, very easily. And so I would definitely wanna educate them, maybe not to be master real estate investors, but at least to know how it can benefit their lives and how they see their lives going forward when they get to that certain age. So those are probably the top 3 things that I'll probably do to prepare my kids for home ownership.
I love it, bro. I love it.
Yeah.
And I it's definitely things that I've been thinking about as well.
Right.
Apart from the industry knowledge, I don't have the industry knowledge, but you know what I mean. It's just the fact that like at the prices that we're looking at homes right now, by the time our children are in their 20s and their 30s and they're
Yeah.
buying deals, like,
Mhm.
bro,
Gonna be wild.
it's gonna be wild, man. You know what I
2-3 million for, like, starter
mean?
home, you know? It's wild.
So I'm like, and if they're just, and I'm hoping for a different sort of trajectory of life for them, where
Mhm.
hopefully by God's grace they start our businesses much earlier than we did,
Right,
so that the cash flow is much more positive earlier than it was
right.
for us. You know what I mean?
Exactly, exactly.
Um, but still, we still have to do our due diligence to
Yes.
prepare for the next generation of
Yeah,
So there's that scripture that says a good man leaves an inheritance for his children. Bro,
yeah.
that
That's
that
it.
thing,
Yeah, man.
it
That's a life mantra, man.
bro, you know what I mean?
Life mantra.
Yeah, Omar, it's been great having you on this podcast.
Thank you,
Thank you
man.
so
My
much for
pleasure.
coming. I strongly believe people are going to get so much value out of this. And I'm going to put all your links in the description. I want people to follow you, to, of course, patronize you in terms of being a mortgage broker, but also follow you because you give out good life advice, good spiritual advice, all that stuff, and you're definitely a person of renown, I think is how it's said, so
Thank
I,
you.
I definitely think people should follow you. And yeah, I'm going to put all your links and stuff, and then they can go find you and do all that fancy stuff. But thank you so much once again, my brother, for coming on the
Oh, thank
podcast.
you,
It was
man.
great having you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So there you have it, everyone. Thank you for hanging with us on this episode of the Many Roads podcast. If you have any questions for Omar, I will do you a solid, right? I will take advantage of my relationship with him and send it over to him. Just put it in the comments, tag us in there. We'll send your questions over to him. But also, please like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's your free way of supporting the Many Roads and all that we're building with this podcast. Till next time, it's been great hanging with you. God bless.